welcome to Great Day Houston. If you have a student looking to go to college next fall, then you know for many of you the biggest homework assignment is due in the next month or so. That assignment is the application process. I'm with students from the University of St. Thomas. Okay, was the process like nerve-wracking for you all? I could say so, but it's okay. You can breathe easy because y'all are already in. It's much different than it used to be, even at public institutions like the University of Texas, Texas A&M, the University of Houston, Texas Southern. Wherever you apply, there's a lot of work, transcripts, test scores, essays, before you can get to this point.
Oh my God. Okay, I'm going in and I'm about to click it. I'm so scared.
I remember that moment. They called and said, get to the University of Texas as fast as you can, and I hope you can find a place to live because I got in so late. You can't do that today. Joining us with how to stand out so you can get in and how to ace the essay is Dr. Cesare Wright. He's helped to guide a number of students through the process. He teaches at the University of St. Thomas, where our students are from this morning. He also taught at Rice University and received undergrad degrees from Rice and the University of Southern California. So basically what we're saying is that you know a thing or two about this, both as a student and as a teacher. All right, I want to start out with, there are a lot of kids who opt not to go to college and to enter the work market, and that's fine too. Those are options, or trade school. So this is really specifically for that group that's going to college, which you are a big proponent of.
Yeah, I think college opens so many opportunities. To me, it's about opening doors, and you don't know when you're going to walk through those, but building a network, gaining experiences, working on projects in teams, in addition to all the academic skills and knowledge. So I think it's something that is just really beneficial to developing you as a person in addition to a professional.
Yeah, all right, let's start at the very beginning, and that is to really sit down with the student in your house and your child, and what school do they really want to go to, but also what's a good fit for them. I can't tell you, I remember when Vince Young helped us win the national championship at UT, and notice I say we, like I helped on the field, right? But I remember a lot of people were like, oh yeah, we want to go to UT. Why do you want to go to UT? Well, they won the national championship. You don't play football, right? So looking at it from a popularity standpoint versus what really serves you and what you want to do.
Yeah, I think what happens a lot is that there are these biases that students go in with. Sometimes they apply to universities because they assume, oh, I can't get into this university, so it doesn't occur to them to apply. Or my parents went here, or they've got a really high ranking. All of those things may be factors, but they shouldn't drive that decision, and really aligning your interests, your values, and who you are as a person to sort of become your epic self with that institution and that university, to me, is the most important sort of path to success.
Yeah, and another reason why a lot of students may say one school is out is because they think I can't afford it.
Right. And the reality is there's a lot of money out there in scholarships. There are a lot of pathways to funding. But once again, the ability to sort of cultivate your brand and your narrative and show a university or a college that you offer value is going to be the key to tapping into that funding. And also understanding the different profiles of the colleges and universities. What are they looking for? Where are the funding sources? And what's available? So there may be one college, great university, but they don't provide as much in funding in certain areas. So understanding all of those things, you don't know what you don't know, and gaining that knowledge is really key.
Yeah, all right. The other thing that we put a lot of emphasis on over the last, several years is that thing called the GPA. I mean, it used to be 4.0 was the highest you could get. I think you can go to 5.0 now in some places. So if you have a GPA that's not stellar, don't discount yourself. Work around it.
Exactly. So many people assume, I've got a low GPA, that's going to be a bar of entry. And it will on a certain level, but if you can narrativize that, if you can tell that story, and I mentioned to you, I had an undergrad that came to me, and she was wanting to apply to grad school, but said, I don't think I can get in anywhere. And I looked at her transcript and said, you know what, we're not going to just get you in anywhere. You're going to get into an Ivy League grad program. And she said, well, I can't. I had a 2.7 GPA coming out of sophomore year. But her dad had died, and she had been taking care of her siblings and struggling. And then she came back and brought that GPA up to a 3.4, which was still, low on the scale of applying to Ivy League grad schools. But I said, look, that shows a narrative of perseverance.
Yeah.
Those other kids with a perfect GPA, they've never been tested. That university doesn't know how they're going to do when they struggle. They know how you're going to respond. You're going to overcome. And she was accepted to Princeton. And to me, that's an amazing success story. But I think so many students, you're 100% guaranteed to fail if you don't try.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
you don't apply, you're not going to get in.
And similar story, a young lady that we helped get into school, and she moved from another country. It was English as second language. She goes, I'm learning as fast as I can, and ended up getting in, and now is getting ready to graduate from nursing school. All right, test scores. A report came out recently that said that the SAT and ACTs, the test scores were lower than they were in 30 years, the lowest point ever in 30 years.
Yeah, and the thing with test scores is, you know me, I don't look at test scores as a great metric of intelligence or performance or aptitude.
Well, a lot of universities now, especially after COVID, are saying we're not even requiring them.
Exactly, and so here's the thing. I don't think that they're really telling in terms of the student's aptitude, but they have been conventionally part of the application. And so a lot of universities are saying, you don't have to submit an SAT score, but just because it's not required doesn't mean you don't have an advantage by submitting it. And what I mean by that is take that SAT, see what you get. If you get a relatively high score, if your score is high enough, then you're in the super score category. And a lot of universities, even with a low GPA or some other hits against you, are going to consider that. But taking the SAT and at least trying and submitting it also shows that you're willing to sort of go the extra mile. So just because they say it's not required doesn't mean you shouldn't take that exam, submit it, assuming you don't get a super low score, and at least put that out there.
Yeah, all right. The personal statement and essay, this is what's causing so much angst. It's actually created a whole nother industry. There are people who help people craft those essays, but this is where you can most sell yourself and make up for some of those other deficits. And the essay, as you were talking to me the other day about, you got to make it very personable and very real, but it's got to be some professionalism to it as well. Right. But if you sound like it's fabricated, you're going to run into some problems.
There has to be an alignment between the authenticity of who you are and the brand that you're selling at every point of your application. So your letters of recommendation, the purpose statement, your GPA, all of those things need to reflect the same version of you, and it's your idealized self. So going on your personal statement and saying, I really care about homelessness and addressing the issue of homelessness, but there's no reflection on your resume that you've done any volunteer work or anything in that space.
And we mean real volunteer work.
Real volunteer
I've looked at
work.
applications that we've actually put aside because when you really look at it, the person's like, I support this cause. In what way? Well, they showed up to a gala once. And that's not what we're talking about. We're talking roll up your sleeves.
Yeah, and just really figuring out how you can be unapologetically yourself, your unique self. That's going to be your differentiator. Tapping into things that you're interested in, your values, the why, and being able to narrativize that for a university. One of the big things that you need to focus on with your purpose statement is not telling the university why they can help you. They know that you're applying to them, right? But explaining why you being there is going to enhance their academic environment, the student life for other students. As an alum, that you're going to come back and be, this sort of epic representation of the best of what they put out into the world.
Yeah.
And you have to capture all of that, and it has to align with your values in a very authentic way.
Let me tell you a couple of things that we kicked out. We could tell that they were plagiarized because we got 3 of them like that. So sometimes people use services. Make sure you have a reputable service that works you through your story. But we saw like 3 that were basically the same. And when you plagiarize, that is a big no-no in academia, of course. So you got to make sure you don't do that. Letters of recommendation. One thing you got to be careful about is how much weight they pull, because we also consider who had access to those, specific people. And just because they're important people doesn't mean that they have more weight. We want people who are really a part of your life. Did they work with you? Did they volunteer with you? Can they speak to your character? So there are a couple other things on here, but one that's super, super important is cleaning up your social media, which we didn't have to worry about when we were applying to school.
Right, yeah, no, I'm glad that Instagram and Facebook didn't exist when I was applying to college.
What does that mean?
Exactly. But yeah, you have to be careful. So there's a balancing act. If you have something, you don't want yourself on there doing a keg stand at a high school party. Obviously, that's going to reflect negatively on you. But you take these things down. I'm not saying that every student has that, but you take these things down, and then you have a void, a gap, and that allows people's imaginations to work. And that's
Yeah, 'cause
even
if your
worse
social
than having
media as a young
something
person
negative.
just started, a few weeks before
yeah.
the application process, is like, well, why did it just start then? Or your nonprofit idea or thing started just a couple of weeks before the application process. You're right, it has people thinking suspiciously, and it's just one of those little bitty things that could edge you out of that opportunity.
Yeah, it's as much about what you post, but also what you don't post, what they don't see. If they see that you've clearly gone in and deleted a lot of content, then they're wondering why. Why did you delete that content? What are you hiding? And so you have to maintain sort of a healthy balance of showing, unfortunately, you're expected to be on social media. They're expecting that young people demographically, statistically are going to be on there. And if you are, make sure you manage that content in a positive way, but also be realistic. And if it looks too fake, then that's going to raise suspicions.
They're going to
as
sniff
well.
it out. There are so many other details to pay attention to. So we're going to have to get you back in, because one of the things that we want to talk about also is somebody who's a couple of years out or a few years out, what you can do to basically build that profile in high school, like starting clubs and things like that. Cesar, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. For more information on Dr. Cesare Wright, log on to greatdayhouston.com and we'll connect you. And also next Saturday, not this Saturday, but next Saturday, there'll be a town hall live meeting on social media to talk about some of these issues, and we'll make you aware of that next week.